The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you.
Jesus came to Nazareth, where he had grown up, and went according to his custom into the synagogue on the Sabbath day. He stood up to read and was handed a scroll of the prophet Isaiah. He unrolled the scroll and found the passage where it was written, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring glad tidings to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free, and to proclaim a year acceptable to the Lord." Rolling up the scroll, he handed it back to the attendant and sat down, and the eyes of all in the synagogue looked intently at him. He said to them, "Today this scripture passage is fulfilled in your hearing." And all spoke highly of him and were amazed at the gracious words that came from his mouth. They also asked, "Is this not the son of Joseph?" He said to them, "Surely you will quote me this proverb, 'Physician, cure yourself, and say, do here in your native place the things that we heard were done in Capernaum.' And he said, 'Amen, I say to you, no prophet is accepted in his own native place. Indeed, I tell you, there were many widows in Israel in the days of Elijah, when the sky was closed for 3.5 years and a severe famine spread over the entire land. It was to none of these that Elijah was sent, but only to a widow in Zarephath in the land of Sidon. Again, there were many lepers in Israel during the time of Elisha the prophet, yet not one of them was cleansed, but only Naaman the Syrian. When the people in the synagogue heard this, they were all filled with fury. They rose up, drove him out of the town, and led him to the brow of the hill on which their town had been built, to hurl him down headlong. But he passed through the midst of them and went away. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
I live near Kettering Hospital. I work here, so almost every day I make that trip from around Kettering Hospital to here. Last week, sometimes I will jump on 675, believe it or not, depending on how traffic is, and just make that short 2-mile skirt down 675 to the exit down here. And so the other day I was doing that, and I don't know about you, but I get up to the speed of the traffic as I'm going to enter the highway. And as I was on the entrance ramp, I noticed this bug holding on to my windshield, right? And it was kind of off to the left, so I'm looking at this bug as I'm driving in traffic, and I merge into traffic, and then this bug is still holding on, and I'm doing 71 miles an hour. I had to keep up with traffic, right? And it's still holding on, and it just struck me. We go through that in life. We hold on during those tough parts of life, during the storms of life. We hold on in faith. We support one another as a group. Sometimes we rise up together in prayer, but that's what we do to get through the storm. We hold on. Storms are a part of our lives. Hurricane Dorian is a part of many people's lives right now. Tornadoes in the spring were a part of our life. And there are times in life when we are victimized through the evil of someone else, another type of storm. And Dayton has seen those storms just this year. But we rise up, hashtag Dayton Strong, right? We rise up together. Hopefully in prayer, many of us in prayer, united, relying on each other and relying on God to get us through the storm as we hold on to those windshields being buffeted. You know, over 100 years ago, Labor Day was created. I think it was 1894, it became a federal holiday. What storm was going on in our ancestors' lives when they were dealing with the labor laws before there were labor laws. I'm sure you're aware that many people were working 7 days a week, 12-hour days, to just make ends meet over 100 years ago. Children at the age of 5 and 6 were known to be working, especially during the Industrial Revolution. There were no laws over that. The people rose up together, standing together, I'm almost sure praying with God to create labor laws, to create unions, to stand together. And so now we are blessed with a day off work, a day to celebrate the fact that we have labor. I'm sure you can argue, is labor perfect? Are all the laws perfect? Will they ever be? But they're much better than they were 100 years ago. And so we celebrate today thanking those who gave us, sacrificed years ago, so that we celebrate what we have today. But in the gospel, in today's gospel, it's a little different story. Many stand in unison, but it's not for that exact reason. You know, Jesus reads from Isaiah, explaining that he is the Messiah. And the crowd is initially positive about this. There's no storm brewing yet. They are saying to themselves, isn't he the son of Joseph? They're thinking to themselves, a prophet? One of our village's sons? This is good for us. You know, it's hard for us to understand today how society lived back then. It was all about family, and it was also about the village. And so Jesus is next challenging them, and he shares two, I guess, uncomfortable stories with them from the Old Testament. The first dealing with Elijah, and they know this very well. During a drought, Elijah is sent not to help someone in their community, but a widow, a foreigner from Sodom. The second deals with Elisha, who cleanses from leprosy, not someone from their village or community, a Syrian. These key moments in history, Jesus is trying to get in their minds that it's not about Israel, it's not about us, it's about everyone. We exist for the sake of all people. But in that culture, what's going through their minds? Jesus is not following the footsteps of his father, the carpenter. That was the common thing you would do. He's becoming something else. And he's here preaching to us, but he's not doing anything for us as far as healing. He's doing it for foreigners. He's ministering to people not of our kind. And with fury they rise up, drive him out of town, and are ready to send him off of a cliff. Christ challenges them and us to see the bigger picture, and they're not ready for it. And the storm, the winds of anger are within them. But with God, who can calm all storms, he passed through the midst of them and went away. So I'm coming up on my exit down here. The bug is still holding on, right? But once I got off the exit ramp and I slowed down, I believe it was a grasshopper. I didn't get a chance to look at it that close. It leapt off. It was free. It was comfortable. The winds subsided enough that it was safe to fly free of its burden. Remember, no matter what you are going through, because I know of many in the surrounding parishes and in this parish who are going through a lot. Many storms are brewing in their lives. We hold on to our faith. We hold on to that windshield. We find strength in the sacraments, in the Eucharist. That's what it's about, finding strength in reconciliation, finding strength in regular prayer, because they do strengthen us. When the storms develop in our lives, perhaps, like I said, you are in the midst of one right now. Hold on to faith. The storm will pass. God will set us free.